And I was actually quite shocked with what I heard on this show, the Big Herald News, is someone it features a couple of times tonight, but with Christopher Hipkins, it's one question. And the reason I wanted to show this tonight was I was utterly shocked. Like, Ryan Bridges has said some stupid things in his past. We've been following him since the AM show. He has said some stupid things. But this is one of the more stupid things he's ever said. Where, and I'll play the whole clip, but as a heads up, where he literally says, he doesn't use these words, so that's probably not literally. He says, and I'm paraphrasing, that's better, prison is a good place for people with mental health issues. Now, he doesn't think he says that, but when you hear the question that he asks Christopher Hipkins, that's the question, and that's what he's saying. Let's have a listen.
I mean, do you accept, if somebody is nuts and punches paramedics in the face, if they are behind bars, they're not punching paramedics in the face, are they?
Well, somehow they... Do you really think that the solution to mental health is to lock up people with mental health problems?
Well, no, but what I'm saying is...
But that's just what you said. That's literally just what you said. Should we go back and just listen to it one more time? You just literally said, if someone's nuts, I think is the word you used, if we put them in jail, they're not going to hurt anyone else. This is the question that this person asked. I'll play it again so Chewie can hear it.
That they need more protection. I mean, do you accept, if somebody is nuts and punches paramedics in the face, if they are behind bars, they're not punching paramedics in the face, are they?
Well, somehow they... Do you really think that the solution to mental health is to lock up people with mental health problems?
Well, no, but what I'm saying is...
Well, that's what you've asserted.
No,
yes.
no.
What you just said, Ryan.
Yes, it is, Ryan.
What I'm asking you, are we at a point as a society where it doesn't matter anymore whether they're mad, bad or sad? If crime is at a point where paramedics are getting punched in the face at call-outs, then something has to be done about it, and it's not having paramedics continually punched in the face.
So if you look at it, so what have the government done here? If someone has willfully assaulted a paramedic, they can already be charged with assault. They can already be subject to the sort of sentences that the government are talking about in this legislation. What's the reason that they're not in many cases? It's because of the underlying mental health issues. Introducing a new category of offence, which they also won't end up being prosecuted for because of their state of mental distress. It's not going to change one thing for those frontline paramedics.
Exactly.
We've got to focus on dealing with the problem. If we want those paramedics to be safer, then let's deal with the underlying thing that's making them not safe.
Appreciate your time this morning, Chris. So last time we came...
Now, I do want to have a look at one other thing to do with that, Chewie. The one other thing was, you know what we haven't done, and it's to my detriment, I apologise, we haven't really looked up what it means for, I don't know why we're saying first, I keep wanting to say first offenders, first responders.
First responders.
I don't know why we keep using that word. Maybe it's a fair word to use because it encapsulates a whole bunch of people. But it's what it is, right? So how bad is this issue? And who is going to get these extra sentences? Now, we just heard Ryan Bridge basically go, well, if they're a bit nuts, if they're locked up, then they can't be nuts next weekend. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but it is actually what he just asked. They'll be in prison being nuts. They won't be out on the road being nuts. But I found this story, and this is just an example. This is from last year in July, about an ambulance officer being assaulted. So this is what we've been talking about. Why are they going to be in control of their capacities, people who are doing this? I'll just read this to you. A man assaulted one ambulance officer and made sexually offensive comments to another as they tried to treat him in downtown Queenstown. The two Hatohone St John volunteers were responding to a call out after a member of the public became concerned at seeing Christchurch man, and they've got his name there, he's 32, vomiting and stumbling in the resort town CBD about 6 p.m. on September 3rd. After initially lying down in the ambulance, the heavily intoxicated man became uncooperative and abusive towards the male ambulance officer, police said. He then stood up, shoved the victim in the abdomen with both hands and got out of the ambulance, and then cried offensive comments of a sexual nature to a female officer. Now, obviously no one's going to defend that, but what we talked about last night is exactly the situation we're saying. Not in control of his faculties. Drunk, mental health issue, high, a rage incident because of something that's just happened. Child's just died, wife's just kicked them out of the house, whatever. So you're not going to be, people, put it this way, people who are in that moment of themselves altogether are not going to be the ones attacking ambulance officers. There's going to be a reason for it, a reason that's probably on somewhat uncontrollable, probably. I'm not to give permission to commit an assault on an ambulance officer, but it makes sense. And what Chippy's just said is, what the courts will do is they'll take all of those things into account anyway. So putting a new legislation in, the courts will still go, oh, well, he's in the middle of a psychosis. And so that's a mitigating factor for sentencing.
Yep.
So again, we come back to the situation where this is a headline, and all it's going to do for this government is gives them the ability to go tough on crime. There's one other thing, Chewie. I wanted to know more about what number of assaults were happening. And it's actually quite hard to find the information. I did a search for it and I got back to a Christmas time article from 2016. It is a long time ago. But then it was assaults on ambulance officers on the rise. But there's one thing that's particularly interesting in it to me. In the past year, St. John's frontline ambulance officers have been physically and verbally abused nearly 3,000 times. Now that's horrific. That's 10 times a day. But I want to know from this government what they're classing as abusive, because Bay of Plenty officers have been assaulted 227 times in the past 9 months. Of these, 162 were verbal and 65 were physical. So a quarter in the Bay of Plenty, give or take, a quarter, a third in the Bay of Plenty were the kind of assaults we were talking about, the physical assaults. Again, this is not to give anyone a defence, and this is not to say, yeah, you're okay to punch an ambulance officer. I want to see the data. Is this actually, like we're being told that this is important. What's the data? I haven't heard the government come out with any data yet. Now, I may have missed it. Fair, don't get to see everything. But it seems to me that what the ambulance, and I guess officially the numbers are talking about assaults, they include verbal assaults. Not okay, don't do that. But very different from a physical assault. And we've got examples of people who do assault an officer drunk, out of control. So I don't think we've got the full picture yet. And I'm not, by the way, let me make this clear, I'm not suggesting it's not a serious problem. What I'm saying is we need to see the detail. We need to see the data. Like, if this wasn't a big deal, and I'm not suggesting that, is this literally just headlines, or are they solving a problem, and is this the solution for it? I want to see that. Chewie.
Well, that's the key part of all of this legislation that they've announced this week, all of this tough on crime stuff, is they keep on saying, well, we've got to get on top of it, we've got to let people know that it's okay, and we've got to propose a deterrent. That there's got to be consequences and that sort of thing. And it's like, well, if you're wanting to stop something, tell me how those things stop this. How does it stop an ambulance officer being assaulted? Because as it has been pointed all the way through, it's someone in crisis, it's someone that's drunk, it's someone that's not thinking straight. It's going to happen. So for them to say, well, this is so it doesn't happen as much, that's not the case. I want to hear how you're keeping ambulance officers safe.
Yeah.
Are
agreed.
they doing? Are they solo driving an ambulance on a busy weekend? That sort of thing. Being an ambulance officer is hard, because you are always dealing with someone at the absolute fucking worst.
So here's something else. I would like to know, like the example we just gave, which is just one example, alcohol was an issue. Now, Gark says ban alcohol. Obviously, we can't do that. But have you noticed with subsequent governments, They will never address the issue around things like alcohol and stuff that are a bane on
It's a common
society.
thread that runs through this, right?
Yeah, and they cause so many problems in society, but because of they are already a part of society, and so like easy to attack weed, easy to attack meth, and you should attack meth, I'm not standing up for it. Easy to attack those kinds of things, but something that's been, rugby, racing, beer, it's been part of our culture for a long time, they leave alone. Alcohol, I would like to know how many of these incidents then actually are alcohols involved in them, because then perhaps we can start to look at how do we solve the problem of alcohol use in New Zealand, and maybe that would then solve the problem of these first responders getting attacked. Yeah. It's like if you're going to put it this way, if you're going to have the conversation, let's have the conversation. And let's figure it out, because there is obviously everyone would say we need to solve the problem and we need to protect people. And there might be a little bit of got to do this before you can do this, but ultimately we want to do both. That's a full conversation.
I think an even shorter and more to the point conversation is exactly what Hipkins said during that interview. If someone assaults an ambulance officer, there is already a charge for that assault.
Yeah.
So does adding another charge change anything? I think it's pretty clear that the answer to that is no. So then, is this government just trying to be seen to be doing anything, knowing that the discussion about this will very simply resolve around so you're for ambulance officers being assaulted?
Yeah. Yeah.
At its most basic, dumbest binary. No, I'm not. I am, what I am for is legislations and laws that are clear,
yep,
implementable. That if they're brought to court, they'll be effective.
Yep.
But don't gussy something up and say it's a deterrent when it's not going to be a deterrent. It can be a consequence, and I think if someone genuinely assaults a first responder, it should certainly be there. But my fear is that this is going to come down on to people that are already not at their best.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a tougher, meaner charge that is going to go, hey, remember that bad time that you had? Well, guess what? It's fucking worse now, isn't it? And everybody's just going to go, well, I've never punched an ambulance officer. I have no empathy for anybody going through a tough time. I have no real life experience in this. I am for it. Because crime, bad. No one's saying that crime is good. No one is saying that ambulance officers knew what they signed up for. That's a bullshit argument, and I won't have it. But yeah, if this government is dressing up this as like, well, at least we're doing something, if the something you are doing is pointless, doesn't achieve its aims, and is not backed up by any data at all, I think that deserves to be called out.
I think you had a really good saying last week. I can't remember what we were talking about, but with that whole, at least we're doing something. So if a person's drowning and you throw them, a masonry block, a cinder block, well, we're doing something, but it might be the wrong thing. And
are you just saying I should just let that person drown? At least I did something. I threw them a cinder block.
The thing that frustrates me a little bit about Luxon and his, I don't care, is that he sold his whole message pre-election on we're gonna drop the dumb stuff. Like literally what is it? We're going to get rid of all the dumb stuff. And now he's putting in stuff where he's going, I don't know if it's going to work or not. I don't care. I mean, that to me sounds like it's certainly a dumb way to get into it. And it may end up being dumb stuff. And if you don't know, that means what you could be doing might be more harmful than good because you don't know. So that's a possibility. And that frustrates me.
Yeah. I would love to see him get raked over the coals for these comments of I don't care. I don't care, don't have the data. Frankly, it's not important. We're just doing something. This is a man, and I knew as soon as he said it that it was bullshit, because of course it was. He said on election night that he would lead for all New Zealanders. It is blatantly clear that that is untrue. That is just the first and first of many lies that has come out of that man's head. So please, media, call him on this. This rhetoric and narrative that he's got, that it doesn't, like, data and proof doesn't matter, efficacy doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to care about the results or the downstream effects. Doesn't even need to consider them. Just fucking shoot from the hip, mate. Why do we need a government? Like, why do we need parties? Why do we need consensus? Just you come up with something. Is that what you're saying?